record. It ain't even no secret.
So
But
we're
they
not
ain't
gonna
gonna,
make this up. Go ahead.
yeah, but they're not gonna talk about it on the news,
Right. Right.
right? But the world court already came out and gave their findings.
Mm.
They had a one of the judges was assigned to tell us. He came out and told us, and we seen it. We just thought, oh, that's a nice little thing you just said, and kept going on about our business. Everything
Ooh.
that we be, everything that we be telling people, the people that's really telling them what's going on, they not being listened to. But the ones that's giving them misdirection and running David Copperfield tricks on them the ones they focus on.
Mm.
And the ones that they can gossip about. Now, that's the biggest thing because we love gossip so much that anything that they can throw out there it's like throwing a bone for a dog to chase while you break into the house. You know, we chase the gossip to our own detriment.
Mm.
Look, the people that need to be worried about their own self liberation know more about Puffy Case than they know about the movement of the Federal Reserve.
That's so true.
They can tell you inside and out the whole of the Puffy case, but they can't tell you that the tribe's been systematically doing step by step reclaiming of the land for the last 10 years and show you each step of the way where it was being done.
Mm-hmm.
And it was being done in everybody's face. They said we had a right to use our system, the oral tradition, to take everything back. So I've been using the oral tradition to systematically take everything back. And they've been giving Empress Redbird all the receipts. The foundational documents in which the fraud is built on in order to use the fruit of the poison tree doctrine, all of the ones that follow are also null and void. So they gave her the paperwork, right? Sending good vibes to Empress Redbird, by the way. She in seclusion right now. So but she watch you, she love your show. And yeah. So I told her I was talk to you about getting her on here one day.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. People been telling me about her as well. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
she's very important to the land because okay, so people know about allodial titles, but what they don't know is the tribes never needed a title. That's European in origin. So when the Europeans staked the claim over here, the king of England, the king of France, and the king of Spain signed off on allodial contracts, which is allotted by royal families to the lords. The lords become the landlords, the land barons.
Okay.
Then the systematic way to keep you from ever striking out against them is to create a structure, and they give you what's called a property tax system. And they allow you to make it up to pay your own taxes on your own, and that way you don't feel like you being forced to pay for land that can't nobody buy or sell.
Mm.
You can only be appointed a portion of territory according to your capabilities to work the land. If you're not a farmer and you in the city talking about when we gonna get our land back, you're not finna go to no farmer and do that hard ass work. Don't even worry about it.
Mm.
Plus, half of us gonna be wealthy, so you know how we gonna do. As soon as we get a job, as soon as we get some money, and we ain't going to work.
There you go. That's true.
We not going to work, especially when we in this victim mentality of post traumatic slave disorder.
Mm.
We actually hold more energy to the slave narrative, never knowing that they turned the story around from prisoners of war to servants of a master. And that's how you create a master race. But the master race ain't the ones that they telling you. They using decoys,
Mm.
deceivers, fall guys, crash dummies, stunt dummies. They supposed to take the fall when we wake up because we supposed to be so groggy that everybody screaming kill Whitey think they talk about paleface. Whitey ain't even paleface. He a Moor, according to Black's Law Dictionary.
Yeah.
right? So if the white man is a Moor, who the black man? A Maru. They look alike, but they ain't the same.
Okay.
George Washington challenged in 200 years, you won't know what side of the water you belong to. I know
Mm.
exactly what side of the water I belong to. I'm Mississippi clay dirt walking, organic to the land, sprang from the land like a tree.
Autogenous. Yes.
Been here from the beginning, gonna be here to the end.
Mhm.
So when all of these things is taking place across the land, we've been taught to follow the what's called mainstream narrative because everybody knows it's easier to swim with the current than to go against it.
Absolutely.
But how you get to be a stronger swimmer is you swim against the current.
Mm. Mm.
You might struggle at first, but you're gonna get strong enough to swim against the current. That's the same as you standing there knowing the truth, trying to tell everybody that's thinking you crazy what the truth is, and they looking at you like you from somewhere else,
Right. Right.
right? And you just sound like a babbling idiot, but most people don't know that smart people sound crazy to dumb people. And you living in a system that requires them to use Skinner box technology and Pavlovian response systems to systematically dumb you down in education.
Mhm. Let
And
me ask you a
Chinese,
question. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
You mentioned us being, what you say, prisoners of war.
Yes.
How did that come about? Please. I don't want to interrupt your thought, though. I can wait till you finish your thought.
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, so remember, they told us in history class that Columbus was looking for an alternative route to India,
Right.
and that's what they told us, right?
So this, yes.
The first problem is India didn't become India until the 1950s.
Mm.
It was Hindustan for hundreds of years before that.
Okay.
So what India is he looking for? So they are operating under what's called the white man's burden. We call it the doctrine of discovery.
Hmm.
They are in exile following the French Revolution and the Spanish Inquisition, in which they exiled the Islamic Moors from Europe. The first place they exiled them to was Northern Africa, right? And they went to put ships together to do expeditions because they needed a homeland because they wasn't native nowhere, wasn't nowhere for them to go,
Okay.
right? So under the papal um, doctrine of discovery, the Pope first gave the Spanish conquistadors permission to settle the Americas,
Mm.
right? And this is Christopher Columbus was actually from the Cologne family, which is one of the secret black nobilities of Europe. That's actually melanated, nappy-head people. And they came over here to establish a home front for the so-called lost tribes of Israel in the Bible. But they
Oh,
made it up. It's all made up.
okay.
And is used for the application of military conquest. Okay, so now that the Spanish conquistadors is heading this way, Christopher Columbus is coming from Spain,
Hmm.
being funded by Isabella and Ferdinand. Remember?
Okay. Yes, yes, I remember that.
Okay, now remember what happened when he came back and told them about the Americas and all of that? And not too long after that, they got beheaded. That was part of the rebellion.
Oh.
They was looking for an alternative location to set up shop.
Mm.
The White House is Casablanca. So they used sigil magic in DC and established a White House, a Casablanca, in the
Okay.
on this land as an embassy. That's why DC is a 10 square mile enclave. It's not a city.
Okay.
It's a city state. It's separate from all of the rest of the stuff on the land. They don't got nothing to do with nobody outside of the 10 square miles of DC. But they
Mm.
tricked us with post office boxes because they use the postal zones are the grids for what's called the Plymouth crash.
Okay.
Remember Malcolm say we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us.
Yes.
If you look up Plymouth Rock, it's to commemorate a crash down in the bay by DC, where the embassy at.
Mm.
Crash site, ground zero.
Wow.
And they came to law the flag. Now they wage a war on us with the Spanish and the English gentry. These are your British nobles that's also being exiled and they still look like us. But they ain't us. They move up into New Jersey and upstate New York and gated communities and they talk about us like we are animals on the farm.
Mm. Wow.
The only time they associate with us is when they think we about to figure out who they is. They need to cause a rebellion and they come and incite us to riots,
Wow.
tribal conflicts between the different tribes, stuff like that. That's their job.
Mm.
It's told about by the FBI is what's called the FBI informant program,
Mm-hmm.
right? And also they had what's called the COINTELPRO infiltration program.
Yeah.
And they wasn't using pale faces to infiltrate our organizations. Most of us believe that the ADL and the JDL is pale-faced Jews. They just the cover story.
Okay.
The real Jews is what they call Zionist Jews, is Moorish Zionist Jews. Them the ones who fell out with Noble Drew Ali.
Okay.
That's why he had to leave New Jersey.
Mm.
So he set up the Moorish Science Temple and put codes all through the Circle 7, the Oral Statements and Prophecies.
Mm. Mm.
So when we read the material, it don't seem like this doesn't make sense for him to be who he was and this material be this elementary,
Right.
right? And what the ancestors say, 9 out of 10, the simplest answer is the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
So Elijah Muhammad said, make it plain enough for a baby to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you look back at his material, and then they're like, what would he be trying to get children to understand? We don't ask them type of questions when we studying because we too busy trying to be adept in the adept chambers and sound all important with a bunch of dogmatic words that don't mean nothing.
Mm.
But when you see past the charade and you realize how we move versus how they move, and you look back on history, it'll play out like you looking back on a video game or you hit rewind on a movie.
Mm.
You can go back, keep rewinding, keep looking at a situation. Hindsight is 2020 for a reason.
Right.
So we look to the past in order to know where we got to go for the future. When I
Mm.
look to the past, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to repeat none of this BS that I see.
I know that's right.
So we gonna have to do something different for the future because I don't support none of the shackling the people. I don't
Mm.
support the rape campaign. Um, Babies as human food and sex toys. I ain't with none of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I know where it came from and I know who was behind it. That's why they call us sinners.
Why?
The Babylonian magic was written by a guy named Menachem.
Okay.
The ones who practice those ritual rites are called sinners.
Wow.
And every time they got these people doing communion, they participating in the rites of sin.
Mm-mm. 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 So once we became prisoners of war by what some people in the chat are calling dirty Moors,
They was the
Um,
first ones come over here, and they used the sweetheart swindle in the Jones plantation philosophy to trick us into thinking that somebody else was running the farm. So they married Big Mama and poisoned her. That's how they was able to enter into agreements because they inherited the land from their wife. We don't believe in selling land. This is how they always tell on themselves.
mm,
Anybody that was selling land and he was over a large plot of land, he was one of them. He married the Big Mama. That's why they called it the Big House. They took her name off of it. It wasn't a plantation. Every clan had family farms.
whoa, I
And
got
they
chills.
come in, yeah, and they come in. Um, Big Mamas was a lot of times single by 30 because they was married to some old geezer, 90, 80 years old,
Right.
right? And she might have 6, 8, 10 babies.
Mm-hmm.
They knew this. It could exploit the loneliness of the woman. It's the sweetheart swindle. It's the classic Valentine Day seduction.
Mm,
And once he get her to marry him, now he got the right to utilize the land however he see fit once he get rid of her, but he poisoned her.
mm.
Look, if they was poisoning the men chiefs uh with infected women and syphilis infected women and smallpox blankets, what make you think they wouldn't try to take over from the mothers? They can't get the land from the men because we already know that the land is the responsibility of the women. They don't the owners of the land.
I was just talking about that the other day, how under the matriarchal systems, the property passed down through the mother, and how that makes sense because she's going to take care of all her children. Doesn't matter who the father is. But
Yep.
when, when according to Marion Stone, who's an author, she said you can correct me though if I'm wrong. She said when the Aryans came out of the Caucasus Mountains, they decimated all and this is a Caucasian woman, European woman.
Mm-hmm.
They decimated all the female gods, and they started marrying the women in order to own the land of the woman and control the womb of the woman and her land. And then it makes sense then for the man to say, well, this is now my property, and the only children I'm going to take care of are the ones that come from my
Man,
law, right? So, but that's not how it used to be.
no,
Okay.
no. So the lands was allotted in portions of land, and most of the chiefs had a governable size clan, but he still had a clan mother.
Okay. Okay.
Every chief had a clan mother that even if she put him out front to run stuff,
Mm-hmm.
he got to run it by her to make sure that he not doing something that is belligerent to the children or the planet.
Okay. Right. Right.
So the women is the council.
Mm-hmm.
They the ones who say, excuse me, is it
Bless.
beneficial or harmful to the children? But we
Mm,
can't do that if it's gonna hurt the babies.
okay.
That makes sense because if it's gonna hurt the babies, it's gonna hurt the future,
Right. Right.
right?
Mm, yes.
So how is it gonna affect the earth? That's how they got to do all that mining under patriarchy.
Mm.
The
Oh.
strip mining was not allowed under the matriarchy. You had to do tunnel mining. And the
Okay.
tunnel mining was to make sure that you wasn't over extending the land's resource. And you're
Okay.
supposed to fill the tunnels back in, but people started living in them,
Mm.
and then they started using them for underground commerce because they found that the mine tunnels can go to another mine tunnel to another mine tunnel. Sometimes all you got to do is move 6 feet of wall and you're in a whole different mine network.
Wow.
And that was where you get your concept of underground railroad. It was train tracks under the ground, mining tracks.
Okay. Okay.
And most of the stories of the Underground Railroad is fabricated. They fa-
Mm.
They fabricated it in order to attach it to the slave narrative to give us some rebellious heroes that they can control our worship of.
Wow.
They celebrate the ones that they want us to acknowledge, and they bury the ones that they want us to forget.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When we have History Month, History Month, Black History Month, don't nobody bring up Lucy Parsons,
Never heard of her.
most feared, the FBI's most feared black woman. She just so happened to be a Native American.
Okay.
They feared her because she had the genetic right to serve them eviction. She just didn't have a chief advisor that knew the old culture that could tell her what to, this is what you're missing. That's the same reason thing that happened with Empress Variasi.
Mm-hmm.
She was successful in their system. She won in their system, but they don't never honor nothing when we win in their system.
Right. She won about $85 quadrillion.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. That was the accumulated value of all of the resources on the land and in the land.
Okay.
In the geography, remember they granted her 68,888 acres.
Mm.
Right, so all of that land, the resources in that land that they had stripped it of, they have to give it back to her, but they don't got it. They squandered the wealth, but the Pope was the one holding all of the resource.
Mm.
That's why Donald Trump had the first. He went and got the certificate from the White Dragon Society over in the Philippines, some damn where. Then he came back, and then he had to show it to the military because now, under military control from the commander in chief, it's executionable as an act of war for them to resist giving us back our gold when we had a title to it.
Mm.
So the military, it moved in on the Vatican. Look, when they was raiding the Vatican, they was giving subtle reports about activities at the Vatican, but they would never say exactly what it was.
Wow. Okay.
Right? They took a whole bunch of bishops, like 80 bishops, they arrested out the gate. They mentioned it, but then they stopped. They didn't carry it on no more than a little article in the back page of the newspaper. That's big news.
Yeah, it is.
That should have been the headline across all major news networks, unless somebody that was trying to keep it a secret can control the news to that degree,
Mm.
right? And that was part of the CIA infiltration of the media. They got movies from the 50s about that. So what make you think they wouldn't be doing it now? And JFK told us they was using the media to control and take
Mm.
over. So if he didn't know what he was talking about, he must have been a prophet.
No wonder they wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of stuff. Remember, the mafia was mad at him because his daddy made all them deals to get the mafia to use they underground connections to promote him as the next president.
Mm.
And they was instrumental in him getting in office. And the first thing he did when they went to ask for their favors is sick Robert on them. Get him, Bobby. And Bobby, he one of them brothers that when his brothers say get him, ain't no backing down, ain't no retreat. You should have never pissed my brother off. Because if you piss my brother off, that means you got a problem that both of us got to handle.
Right.
That's
Right.
why he was going at the mob like that.
Okay.
But he was
Mm.
also going at, see, the CIA got mob ties.
Mm.
And that mob ties was through George Herbert Walker Bush. It all traced back to the old man.
Mm.
Whether we go 9/11 route, trace back to World Trade Center and the controlling, he's a dirty player.
Mm.
That's why he was the first one Trump got rid of.
Mm.
And the second one was John McCain,
Okay.
right? The two biggest traders operating on the land. You got to remember, John McCain was the one gave up the position to the enemy, and they gave him a pardon for it.
Mm-hmm.
They were supposed to give him a bullet in the face, according to the military law. He was a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
Gave up the military positions to the enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're supposed to die for that.
Mm.
What they do? Slap the badge on, honor on him, put his strong arm in a little sling, and sent him to D.C. Ain't nobody in D.C. like him. But they
Mm.
scared to say something to him because his marionette master, his Geppetto, that old
Mm.
man Bush, the pedo,
Mm.
he put Obama in office.
Mm.
He created the Clinton, all them assets. Those was George Herbert Walker Bush assets,
I see. Mm.
right? Like if you go to Behold a Pale Horse, he tell you about the Senate Select Committee that made him King George the First of the United States of America.
Mm.
So me, when I was locked up, I went and pulled the bill in the law library, and it said what
Okay.
he said. So I know he wasn't lying because it's in the bill,
Mm.
right? So once you read it, you can't be like, okay, well, I know this information, but what do I do with it? Right? You watch it play out and it expose itself.
Mm.
Now we just shining the light back down the dark corridors of the past so we can show you where it was all at.
Right. You mentioned Behold the Pale Horse, and that just reminds me of what I saw. And I think you were trying to help me see that,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I need a little more clarity when we saw Beyonce riding in on the white horse during the halftime of the games on Christmas. What was that symbolic of something?
Yeah. So the biblical reference for the pale horse is not the biblical reference for the white horse.
Okay. Okay.
The pale horse is gray in color.
Mm, I see.
When you go back to the original, the Greek word for it, it's kind of telling you that it's a grayish color,
Mm,
a pale gray.
okay.
The white horse, they say the one who sat on the white horse is called faithful and true.
Right.
In another place, it said, and the one that sat up on the white horse was given the keys to war and went about conquering and to conquer.
Mm,
Right, so they're not the same.
okay.
The one who sat up on the pale horse carries death.
Right.
Right, so death means absolute change. It don't always mean somebody got to die.
Okay.
It just means that the change is definite. It's a for sure change. It's just like
Okay.
reading the tarot card. Tarot really be trying to explain to people the devil card don't mean the devil. It mean in the physical world. But when
Wow.
you talk in the spiritual world, they give you the lovers instead.
Mm,
When you look at the cards, they mirror images of each other. One is above and one is below. Right? It's the same thing with the death card. Right? They tell you get the death card, people think somebody about to die. It don't mean death in the literal sense.
let's see.
Right? It's oracle reading. Death means an absolute change. Something that was once vigorous in this form is no longer in that form. It don't exist no more. It's dead. When the caterpillar comes out of the cocoon, as the butterfly, the caterpillar itself is dead.
Right.
But when you look in the cocoon, you can't find the caterpillar. You just see you just seen the butterfly come out. So now you're
Right.
trying to figure out what happened to the caterpillar because he ain't there no more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Metamorphosis.
So
The
help me
absolute
understand.
change.
Okay. So help me understand. Can you make it clear for me what the symbolism of Beyonce it was riding on a white horse? Because I know they do things through codes.
Yeah. So in Mexico, it's called Jefe Blanco, the white
Okay.
boss.
Okay.
And symbolism, she used in the Western style cultural symbolism. That means
Mm,
Southwest primary origin for the Western style of dress.
okay.
And so she's telling us it's from the West comes a conqueror.
Okay.
I don't know what song she was singing, so I can't go into like how that tied to what she was doing.
Okay.
But the whole thing, if you notice, she came with a whole white army.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And you notice they've been having a lot of fog on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big ass ship cloaked over there.
Makes sense.
So when the cloaking agent for the ship falls to the earth, it look like fall. And
Mm,
you will know that it's chemical based because it'll float on water, turn into foam,
okay.
right? So that's the cloaking agent for the ship. So she's
Mm,
telling you the ship coming in on the final hurrah from the west, southwest.
mm,
So if you ever see that picture, it's a picture of America. It looked like it got the A written across for the
mm,
solar orbit,
okay.
and you seen it on the deck clock. It's been on the deck clock. That's
Mm.
the proposed trajectory of the returning Nibiru ships,
Ooh, okay.
right? But they can only come when the tribes are back in power,
Um,
because they got to get rid of the ones who were holding the power from the old system, because they the ones who corrupted the earth. The whole
mm,
idea and descriptive analysis of this place called heaven used to be earth when it was controlled under the matriarchy. That's why
mm,
all of those masculine species wanted to come here to relish in the energy of this divine feminine. But when they got here, some of them was a little fruity and they got jealous of the women because they was
mm.
used to the male attention.
Oh.
And now they want to know why the women getting all the attention. Because
Mm.
we don't want to look at your hairy ass. We rather look at her.
While you're talking, I'm just going through in my mind Marion Stone's book, When God Was a Woman. Like she lays it out that these people who came here, she said she called them Aryans from the Caucasus Mountains. She said they were homosexual in nature. They were brutish. They hated women, and they decimated mama all across the planet. And it
She
just
gave
blows.
you she gave you a 100% descriptive analysis of Enlil's fleet.
Oh, okay.
The ones that they say came down on top of Mount Hermon,
Mm,
right?
mm,
They couldn't go west because the Egyptians was the barrier. So they went north.
mm.
When they go north, they settled in the Caucasus Mountains and they got nappy hair, right? And
Yes.
they got yellow skin, not pale skin. Or what we
Oh,
would call them in the Mississippi culture, they call them a light bright,
okay.
right?
Okay.
Ooh, look at that light bright. I mean,
Mm,
that bright boy and that bright girl down there.
yeah.
That's what they
Yeah.
right. So, but they had nappy hair.
Mm,
Most people don't know that if you were originally from the earth, you're gonna have a higher propensity to have nappy or curly hair than you is
right.
straight hair.
Right.
Straight hair is the minority, but it was still tribes that had straight hair. Melanated tribes with straight hair.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have your Asian tribes with the hollow hair. That's a whole nother Y chromosome haplogroup,
Okay.
right? You had 12 daughters of Isis. All of them was a different skin color and hair texture. And eyes, some of them had funny eyes,
Mm,
right?
right.
So they settled in the regions of the earth in 12 major sections. The 13th seat was the sacerdotal seat, the
Mm,
Isis seat. the
Mm-hmm.
Ainana seat, the Olympia seat,
Mm-hmm.
the Columbia seat, the
Mm-hmm.
Guadalupe seat. She's still in all of the cultures under different names, and they put her right there in front of you, but you don't know that the son can't never be greater than the mother because he can't carry no baby in his womb. So when we realize that aspect, Hail Mary, Mother of God, what that
Mm.
make her?
Woo! Woo! A goddess,
So when they
God.
say, when she said Hail Mary, Mother of God, think about what it's saying about the making of man. Let us make man in our image. But just kick his uterus out and early kick his uterus out,
Mm-hmm.
make his ovaries drop, turn them into testes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the women can override the Y chromosome if it got any defect in it and produce a girl baby without that Y.
My daughter, who studied biology, told me that, and she told me that in the womb, a child starts out as a female. I was
All
like,
zygotes are female. It's not
mm,
until later on that the mothers determine the Y chromosome is not going to be defective that she okay the progesterone, testosterone balance in her blood to convert the genetics of the child from female to male.
mm, mm, that's beautiful.
The
Okay.
mitochondria run this place. I don't care what they say
Mm,
because it's the mitochondrial right to scan the chromosome or the Y chromosome.
okay.
Men don't we inherit it from mama, but we can't pass it on to baby.
Mm,
That's why everything comes through the motherline.
okay.
And the same mitochondrial in the woman from a specific geography is in the soil of that geography, and that's how you know who organic to that land.
Mm,
It's more accurate than 23andMe.
mm. 1 minute, Chief. Family, if you're enjoying this lecture and this conversation with Chief Hayes, who is also known as Rod Hayes or Chief Pontiac, then let us know in the chat that you appreciate him, and let's send him a blessing. I really believe in blessing people that help us out or share knowledge and information. And you can send him a blessing at $ by Cash App at $SIKAPE, just to let him know that we appreciate him and we're grateful and thankful that he took the time out to share this information that you're not going to hear anywhere else. At least I haven't heard it anywhere else, except for studying the matriarchy. I did do, since I did study some anthropology, but this is impressive, just knowing that we're going to return to the matriarchy, understanding how important it is, all of that, and how the whole world really is returning back to the matriarchy. They're waiting on the sisterhood here in America. So if you are appreciating this, and if you want to even ask him some questions before you do, just drop him a love offering, family. Send him a Cash App blessing at $SIKAPE, and that's called the SikApe. And he never asked for that. It's something that I enjoy doing because I was raised and taught that if a person blesses you, you should give back to them. And the Bible says, muzzle not the ox that treadeth out the corn. So, Chief, I hope you don't mind me doing that. It's just my great pleasure that you've taken the time to be here today.
Reciprocity. Reciprocity.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, sir.
accept everything with gratitude and return the love just the same for it to come back to him tenfold. See,
Yes, sir.
the multiples of 10. That's
Beautiful.
how the love energy is exchanged through gratitude, reciprocity,
Okay.
right? And
Okay.
when we do stuff for each other, like I come on here, I don't ask for nothing. I just come over to give y'all the information.
Yeah.
It serves two purposes. Notice the agent, notice the principle. It's everything I say is for public notice.
Mm,
So when I'm telling them to close this stuff down, it don't matter what platform I'm on.
mm,
I'm not personal property. I'm community property. I belong to the collective in order to get their stuff back. So
mm,
and all the knowledge I got was paid for by my brother and my sister and myself.
mm.
right? So I'm just giving back because I ain't got nothing else to do with it. What I'm gonna do? Go die with it? Ain't gonna serve me no good in the grave,
That's right. That's
right?
right.
But if it'll benefit the collective to know the truth about the lies they told us and the lying liars that signed their name to them damn lies
Mm.
and where to find them at, I'm gonna tell them.
Mm.
I'm gonna tell them because our people need to know that they ran so many kind games on us,
Mm.
and they old kind games. They still using them, right?
Yeah.
But now that we know the MO, the modus operandi, method of operation, how they do a thing,
Mm. Mm.
we can defend ourselves now.
Absolutely.
This the power of the conjure magic is to keep it a secret. Expose
Mm.
the secret, break the spell. We was under three major conjure sleep spells. One out of Sumer called Kingu. One out of Egypt called Amin. That's why they got people saying Amin behind all their spells so they could tell their inner god to go to sleep.
Ooh.
And then we had the Crispus Attucks George Washington conjure spell.
Okay.
So now we coming out of triple darkness because we coming from under three sleep spells.
Mm.
And they were all amnesia spells. So they tripled down on the amnesia to try to keep us permanently oppressed.
Mm.
I just decided I didn't feel like being oppressed, so I was just going to tell people how to break the conjure by knowing where it's at, who did it, and what they do it, and how it worked. Because once you understand how the blood magic works and you see them doing it right in front of you,
Mm.
all you got to do is elect not to participate.
What exactly is this blood magic?
When they do conjure with magics, they make them into contracts. And the contract had to be written in the blood of somebody that's absolutely 100% innocent.
Mm. Mm.
Once they get the blood of the innocent, they tie you to a contract based on two biblical verses where it
Okay.
say that the blood of the righteous shall not be spilled in vain.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
The side effect to that is they have to do what's called conjure maintenance,
Okay.
which is where you get your modern slaughterhouses separate from the butcher that only butchered when the family needed something to eat.
Mm.
The butcher used to, every family had a family butcher, every
Okay.
clan on the family farm. It
Mm.
might be an uncle with 10 nephews learning the butchery science, or he might have cousins from different clans learning it from him,
Mm.
and then he sent them all home. But when we have the pit masters come out and do the barbecue, they're trying to make us seem like we got that from somewhere else. You can see them barbecuing in the paintings in the Mayan paintings,
Mm.
cooking over the open flame. Those old pit masters. This is
Mm.
what your Juneteenth celebration really was. But they needed to monetize it and they needed to tie it to the slave narrative.
Wow. Mm.
The teen days, 13th to the 19th, used to be where all of the pit masters go to their big mamas and they cook their contests. The young guys that's learning how to barbecue coming up with their own recipes and they bring them to Big Mama to see if it's a good recipe.
Mm.
When we take the barbecue and pass it out at the for the family to take home, we ain't had grocery stores. Everybody had to eat off their family's farm.
Mm.
And that's why they turned them into plantations to make us despise working on the farm.
Okay.
And
Mm.
that way, when they poison Big Mama and the house nigga take over and appoint the Jones to govern the plantation,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Then when he go into a sharecropping agreement and lose the land, we don't even give a damn. As
Mm.
long as we can get off this land, let him lose it. Because they misusing the family and we ain't pulling that nigga up there in the house.
You said the
Every,
house nigga. Took over the land. You didn't say that the slave master, the Caucasian man, took over the land. You said the
Them,
house.
yeah, he the one poisoned Big Mama. That's why we ain't like house niggas.
Oh, okay. Well,
Come
where
in
did
with his,
he? Go ahead.
come in with his buckle shoes and his European suits on.
Mm.
Then he don't got the nerve to say who that nigga on that nag when you see a native riding in. They showed you in the movies.
Well, who sent him? Where did he come from?
They was conquistadors and Huguenots. The Huguenots was the French ones who take the credit for the Creole culture.
Okay.
The funny part about that, if you go talk to the actual people that's from that culture, they was practicing that culture long before a Frenchman ever came over here.
Mm.
They just added the French language into the Creole culture. They didn't add the Creole culture into the French.
Mm.
They was already there. That's their tribal standard of living. They whole
Okay.
culture about who they are as a people. That's
Mm.
why they tried taking Mardi Gras. You see, they won't mess with Mardi. The first time they didn't mess with Mardi Gras in about 140 years.
Mm.
They know what they doing.
Mm.
They trying to create chaos and wire up the tribe so that we can't follow the continuation of the process of reclaiming what's ours.
I see.
Django, yeah. Who that nigga on that nag? Who that nigga on that nag? You go back and look, the house nigga was running the show the whole time.
Yes. Yes.
Now you gotta go pull up this clip on YouTube called The Jones Plantation, and you'll know why I keep saying that as an example.
Okay. The Jones Plantation.
Yeah.
So, Chief, let me look that up. I keep talking about how the chiefs on the land are now back in control because I keep seeing certain rituals that are being done that alludes to that to me. Like any game with the name of chiefs, Indians, Moors that's played, I can always kind of foretell who's going to win. It's always what's in the last 2 years. It's been the
Mhm.
chief or Indian.
So they use the sports logos, team mascots, and scores to talk to each other.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody that don't know that,
So he's going to be answering the questions, and the questions is going to be moving all over the place. So don't think it's him going all over the place because
I
I've
do
seen
that
that
sometimes
before.
too. I do that
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, it's
Sometimes
all
you might
good.
ask me a question, it might require me to draw information from several
Yes,
different
yes,
places. But yeah,
yeah, it's going to get deep in here. So, talk to the people, let them know what you've been up to, man. How can they come and see you? What's up, man?
man, I haven't been doing much. I had a funeral I just went to over the weekend. One of my cousins had passed away, and so I've been really laid back, and that take the family off. Always, have to stutter stuff because we've been having like for the last 15 years since I've been home, we've been having family members dropping like flies. You know, so that takes its toll after a while, and you either gonna become totally despondent or you gonna become numb to the grief.
Right.
So I'm at the numb to the grief part now because I already went through when my mama went and my dad went a year later. I was totally despondent. I was still functional, but emotionally I was a wreck.
Wow. Yes, man. Well, only the strong survive this. You know that.
But it ain't for the faint of heart. The work that you do, side, the work that I do, the work Brother Rich do, Young Elder,
Mhm.
trying to get this positive, life changing information to our people.
Right.
And like a lot of the stuff that I see, other people that study the same materials didn't even see it. They
Right.
weren't even they it went right past them. But I don't know. I think that I had like a spiritual tutor that's a bad what they call a BMF. Shout out to
Mhm.
Big Meech, the chief to touchdown.
Hold up. Hold on. You saying Big Meats? He's free?
I got the report that he was released at 5 a.m. this morning.
How did they release him? I thought he had mad time.
Okay, so they gave him a time reduction first. That's supposed to have been 2025. But what you about to see, he ain't the only one about to be at home, and people mouth gonna be hanging on the ground because they're gonna be like, Rod Hayes said that stuff, but I thought he was crazy.
Wow,
A
man.
lot of the chiefs about to be coming home by before the end of the year because one, most of us don't know who the chiefs are because we lost track of our tribal traditions. A
Mm,
chief is responsible for a particular part of our community development. Big Meat's responsibility that he trained himself how to do is teach these youngsters how to live with wealth, right? And because that's the work he was doing, don't matter how he got the wealth, it matters that the good he served was more valuable to us than the means by which he was trained to learn how to handle wealth. The youngsters don't know how to handle wealth.
right,
They get a little
right,
bit of money, they want to kill each other, they want to, you
right.
know,
Oh,
take their money down to the club and make it rain. That's not good financial sense.
all right.
So he was teaching them when you got money, just because you got money, you can't just talk down to people because you might be down tomorrow and they up.
Hmm.
A lot of
True.
people get a little money and they feel like that money made them better than you.
Right.
But that's something that's fleeting and temporary. Love is eternal.
All right. So let me let the audience know real quick. Y'all might hear some stuff tonight that make you say, I never heard that before. Because when we look at Ron and brothers like Bobby Hemmett and Phil Valentine, and y'all call that probably the dark side. What do you call it, brother Ron? What you call it? The information and the knowledge that you deal with.
It's esoteric.
Esoteric. Okay, there
That's
you go.
or you can call it a cult. But people commonly misinterpret a cult for cult.
Uh huh.
And cult has been given a negative connotation, never knowing that it's a root word.
Hmm.
It's the same root word to a cult as it is to culture, as it is to cultivate. At the root of all of those words is cult. And they
All right.
tell us that a cult is a wicked thing. Anything that we would be using to reconstitute the tribes has been villainized by the system. We
Okay.
still
So
gonna
let me get it
reconstitute.
off. Let me get you first with this first one. The first question I have for you is the number 13. What is the secret behind the number 13?
It's the 13th zodiacal seat. If you go to the Temple of Dendara in Kemet and you look, they have a stellar relief in the ceiling of the zodiac. And at the very center, there's the hippopotamus goddess with the alligator span. She's carrying a meat cleaver. That's Big Mama. Her name, Tawaret, right? Which is the
Hmm.
oldest known deity ever on earth. The ancient Kemetic temple writings write that the first god was Tawaret, and she just so happened to be Big Mama, right? Big Mama is the embodiment of the universal creative force, right? She is what we call a chaos being emanating from triple darkness. And it was by leave of the great mother, Tawaret, that we have something called creation to express ourselves in individuality. The 13th zodiacal seat is the eye in the middle, just the great mother who sits in the middle of the 12 signs of the zodiac. This is also the sacerdotal seat of earth. It's known as the Isis seat. And the Isis had 12 daughters that represents each of the 12 signs of the zodiac. So her seat is always the 13th seat. In the usurpation of the divine feminine, they tried to villainize and make her evil and tell her that, or tell us that God is a man with this long stringy beard wearing a white robe. That's Obatala. He gonna always ride with Big Mama. And don't care who you think you is, when you go tell Big Papa, he gonna say, what Big Mama tell you? Right? Obatala has been whitewashed in the history books under the Norse tradition because the people who receive the information is obligated to adapt the teachings to their culture. And when they adapt the teachings to their culture, in the Norsemen, they prominent male figures got a long stringy beard. I want you can call him Odin, you can call him Zeus. It don't matter what you call him. He, the great father, is going to always stand in protection and guardianship of the great mother. That's the difference in the masculine aspect of the ruler gods and the creative aspect of the creator god, which is the feminine.
But does the number 13 also deals with evil? You
That's
see the movies come out, Friday the 13th, stuff
mhm.
like that. They say
That's the
this is a bad luck
villainization.
day,
Yeah,
and you know,
that's
and,
the
and people,
villainization of it.
and then I remember growing up, you know, my moms was so damn superstitious. Oh, you be careful out there. The day is Friday the 13th, and all of that. So yeah, talk to us.
So the energy. First of
Hmm.
all, Friday is Freya Day. Freya, going back to Norse mythology and European divinity, is the daughter called Venus, called Oshun in the Vadun culture. What you say? I'm the only one in this community calling the esoteric and arcane the darkest house of consciousness. That might be why you call it dark. So the all of the dark stuff is given a negative connotation. All of the feminine stuff is given a negative connotation because they're trying to push an agenda. And now we to the point where their agenda don't work on us no more.
Hmm.
Right. And so when you see Bobby Hemmett, you see Dr. Valentine, you see the minister, right? You see Dr. Malachi. They are trying to tell us parts to the problem, and then the next generation, which is us, we come after them. Our job is to put the pieces together and tell the story so the people can understand it. There's nothing evil about the number 13. The only thing evil is the intent of the patriarchs who wanted to emasculate divinity, right? And usurp the divine feminine and replace it with a drag queen, Statue of Liberty, frame of reference. You think a Statue of Liberty is a man. I mean, a woman. The Statue of Liberty is Lucifer.
I've heard that before.
You can put, I already then posted the pictures. I would have brought the receipts, but we just chopping it up. But the Statue of Liberty is Lucifer. You could type it into TikTok and there's a couple of people doing the breakdown on it. The whole Luciferian agenda is a drag queen march across the land to conquer the matriarchal sacerdotal seats of power. By putting a man in the skirt does not change the quality of the seat. You can call him a mayor all you want. A mayor is always going to be a female, and a stallion going to always be a male. You do the math. They have us under the false pretense that the stallion is the female and the mayor is the male. That's why all of our town mothers used to be the mayors. When they met, it's called a Congress of Mayors. They still use the terms in reference to Mustangs out west when the females come together to prepare for the birthing season. Before the males come, they call it a Congress of Mayors, right? And then comes the stallions. When the stallions come, they fight. I want this flock, this Congress right here. Another use for the word Congress is sex, right? So they using our natural systems to rape us without our knowledge. They roofing us with false information. The town mother is the mayor, and the town mother is not selected by a vote. She's selected by birthright and recognition of the tribes in the town, right? And that's how we selected our mayors. The elections is the only control we have of politics is in local elections. That's election in the aldermen, city councilmen, depending on where you at. I forgot what they call them in the parishes, but they are all elected. Local government is the only actual true government on the land. Federal government is a fallacy. It's a fallacy, and it's based upon a corporate interim system occupying or pretending, masquerading de facto in law as the legitimate government agency, the dominant government agency, but they interim. That means they got a lifespan of how long they allowed to be here. You on mute?
Hold on, brother. What I want to get to right now is that I wanna start talking about some other stuff because I've been hearing you talk about the aliens and stuff like that.
Which is one of my most. I hate talking about aliens and outer space, but I had to talk about it because
Yeah.
they here.
Well, there you go. And this is what I want to talk about. Um, what do aliens look like, and what is the evidence that you have that say aliens have visited Earth? And have you ever seen or experienced a UFO sighting?
Okay, now let's break the question into parts because that's three questions in one.
Yes, go into it.
So, what was the first part?
The first part was, what do aliens look like? And the second part is, do you have any evidence of aliens visiting Earth? Let's deal with them too.
Okay, aliens have varying different looks. Um, the only proof is that it's a ship sitting right outside of Earth right now that the Pentagon is watching, that they've been reporting on since March. They said they're sending out lesser ships to do reconnaissance, and then there's nothing that they can do about it. That's the first piece of evidence. You can look it up, right? The As far as how they look, they have a varying different look depending on where they from. Because the code for the human is not the code for every sentient being. The only similarities most of us have that makes them anthropomorphize is the head, two arms, two legs, where you do got some that got 4 and 6 arms, and you do have some with 4 and 6 legs. But that's the exception to the rule. The general rule is for the sentient being, normally they come in with 2 arms and 2 legs and a head and a torso. So the general description in of an alien is anthropomorphized, but a lot of them look like me and you. Like we could be sitting here talking to one of them, and if he adapted to the language where he don't have an accent, you would never know he an alien. You would just think he's just another brother, right? They made a TV show, a movie about a brother from outer space. You remember that? The brother from outer space, because they wanted us to
Right, I
know
remember
that
that.
there is a sizable portion of them that's heavily melanated. Some of them melanin is so dark that it absorbs 10 times more light than the average person, and that's because of the deep space um, effect that it's having on them. And some of the suns set out so much radiation in the biological counter of most organisms to protect itself from massive amounts of radiation is to produce massive amounts of melanin as the response.
Have you yourself ever experienced the alien?
Um, Yeah, but they normally talk to me telepathically and tell me they're there. I only seen a couple of beings that I know were aliens, and they was telepathically talking to me. One caught me in Walmart, gave me a book reference when I first came home. And then there was another one that I encountered at a mall where I was walking down the mall, and he was telepathically telling me, almost to me, you almost to me. And when I looked up, he said, "Oh, you found me." Right. So they don't look, those ones didn't look different than regular people, but they was from different places. But I don't tell people that stuff because I don't like to talk about space stuff because we have too many earth problems that we trying to escape from solving. We don't want to solve the problems where we at. We want to go somewhere else and take them problems with us and make that place as effed up as this place. But if we solve the problems where we at, we ain't got to worry about nobody from nowhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you spiritually protect it, by solving your problems. Because if you solving your problems, the energy field around you, source is saying, don't mess with this one. He's doing his work. You always hear about that in the hood, putting in work, right?
Yeah.
Some of us work don't look pretty, but it's
Right.
necessary for the effect that it's going to cause. So when we do certain stuff, it may not fit within the parameters of accepted norms. And we might even end up locked up for following our purpose and our path. And sometimes we just end up isolating ourselves because it's difficult to explain to undeveloped spiritual minds a developed spiritual concept.
Mm-hmm. What is your view on the government stance regarding UFO sightings?
The government is 100% aware of what it is and who they is. They communicate with them. Dr. Strange wrote a book about when Eisenhower was visited by the Venusians, right? And that's when, back in the 40s, and they, after World War II, and they dropped the bomb because that's what caused us to be put in what's called a light lock. Like, it's a covenant. It's to lock us into the simulation, spiritually, but that's also to keep us from spreading like disease beyond our realm, all of the dirt dealing that the people been taught to do. None of it is normal. Even if we accept it as normal, it's still not normal to us as a species. It's been given to us by outsiders. And that's one of the easiest ways to heal yourself, is to find the foreign nature of the characteristic you exhibiting so you know that it's not who you are. That's how you kill your ego.
Is the
Purification of the
government
ego in
telling
the
us the
occult.
truth? Is the government being
Hell
honest with
no.
us?
The government is never going to tell us the whole truth. They give us half truths, but more than anything, they talk in what's called double speak, coded talk. Like, Donald J. Trump know exactly what an AK-47 is. Went on the news and he said, I became a gun expert when they told me about the MK-47. That's a code. It's not a misspeak, double speak, right? And the code crackers are other heads of state has a code cracker. I'm the code cracker for Empress Rearbird, right?
Mm-hmm.
She is the blood right descendant matriarch to call for to sit on the sacerdotal seat. And so when she went to Philadelphia, sat on the sacerdotal seat, she took back the tribal right to political and social systems. So now what we about to see is the shift. But we first had to get to the part where, because I have to give her reporting. That's going to be live because I have to do it where all of the tribes across the land have equal access to the information. Whether they believe it or don't believe it is they're inconsequential to the fact that they had access to it by public notice. So the report that I got to give her is on the state of the war and with receipts.
Let me ask you this. These aliens that you have seen, that you have come in contact with, do they have any special powers? Should we be afraid of these aliens? What? Talk to me.
Look, you ever hear the story about the angels and then they fall on their face in fear in the presence of the angel? You don't
Mm-hmm.
got to fear them unless you dirty,
Mm-hmm.
right? Unless you doing secret shit to hurt people behind the eyes of the unwitting public. You concealing your dirt and you doing nefarious things, knowing exactly what you're doing. The frequency is what's going to tell you that you the one. Because when you're doing certain stuff, it shows in your frequency. They call it biorhythms. If you look up biorhythms, then what you do alters your biorhythm. If your natural biorhythm is to be in the heart chakra space, pure love energy, but you operating from the root chakra, you've been inverted. Once you've inverted, it alters your frequency. You don't look the same energetically. Like if you take Kirlian photography, you won't have what's called a pure color. It will be specks of darkness in your color. They can see it with their eyes because they see a larger light spectrum than our 0.1%. They seeing like 40% light spectrum. So they seeing you so deep you can't hide your secrets. And they telepathic. So now they listening to you lying to yourself, trying to convince yourself you a good person while you running around doing all this dirt. And now you trying to convince publicly everybody that you a good person. Instead of stop doing the dirt and be yourself, it'll come out whether you a good person or not. Right? And then they gotta always send in somebody to undermine you.
Mm-hmm. What technological advancements do you believe were inspired by aliens encounter? By aliens encounter.
Fiber optics was developed off the reverse engineering of Area 51 in the Roswell crash. This is already recorded and exposed, and it's already available under the Freedom of Information Act to be reviewed. Um, the cell phone is ancient. Most of the technology is ancient anyway. Atlanteans had all of the stuff that we consider modern technology, plus some you haven't seen.